А, вот, все, поняла. Как вот аватарку себе загрузить вместо вот человечка этого? А, это ты листаешь? Я думала, это я листаю. Не, у меня вот эти стрелки вправо-влево не листаются, почему-то не нажимаются. А вот, да, они есть, но они не нажимаются. Сейчас еще раз. Окей, зашла еще раз. Я просто не могу понять, почему я не могу листать собственную презентацию. А, все, дошло, все. Тут стрелки есть вверху и внизу. Почему-то вот верхние стрелки не листаются, а нижние листаются. Все, теперь я тоже могу листать. Все. Угу. А, все, угу. 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 М, м. Я все подключила, должно работать уже. Я так понимаю, ты тоже в комнате, да? Ну, у тебя тоже звук включен. Я тебя тоже не слышу. Зачем? Еще раз выйти? Что ж такое? Ну, окей. Ну вот я нажала и говорю. Слышно? Микрофончик включен. Просто он даже как бы обычно показывает, там, знаешь... А, работает, да? Да, микрофон работает или нет? Работает, да? Отлично. Угу, все. Тогда в 11, да? Угу. Ну, вообще, это твой вебинар. Лучше, наверное, тебе представить меня. Я лучше на английском. Ну, да, представь меня и скажи, кто там в 11, да, и представь мне, кто там, что за команда будет. И сколько там команд, сколько человек. И все, я там начну. Угу. Все, давай.
Hello there. I would like to meet you, and I nice to meet you. We started our webinar, and I believe that it is very important for you, and you get a lot of important things for our teacher Natalia Tokar. Today is a very beautiful morning in Moscow. I believe that in Minsk too, and another country too. So I want to show you our webinar platform. You can see slides on the right side, and on the left side you can see video and chat. If you want to ask any question our teacher, you can note in our chat, and if you understand all clear, you can note plus, or if you don't understand anything, you can write any question or minus, and good luck. I want to introduce our teacher. She is Natalia Tokar. She a greatest coach for startups, for English speaking, and for any conversation with investors. Natalia, can you speak anything?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, can everyone hear me? Can you hear me?
If you hear me now, please.
Yeah, I do hear you. I can hear you. Oh,
Okay.
something. I just want to make sure that everyone else hears me.
Okay. And now I stop my video, and I get speech Natalia. Good luck, guys. And see you at the conference in March. Bye.
Hey, so I guess it's my turn. If you can all hear me okay, yeah, just let me know that you can hear me, because I guess the problem was that both presenters were talking. Perfect. Okay, good. Unfortunately, I cannot share the video with you today due to some technical things, but you saw my picture. I'm going to also tell you how to follow me on social media so that you know what I look like. I'm going to tell you what the structure is going to be like. First of all, I need to make sure that everybody understands my English, okay? So if you cannot follow me, if you don't understand, let me know. If you do understand, write something meaningful, like more than a plus, write words. Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I understand you. So just let me know, okay? That I don't have to slow down for you, or I don't need to... Okay, perfect. Good. Because as far as I understand, on May 17th, you all are going to be pitching in English from a big stage, and I just want to help you here, guys. I don't want to spend a lot of time introducing myself. I just want to let you know that I work with lots of blockchain startups in the, blockchain startups, fintech, AI, all these startups and investment groups worldwide, mostly in US, Hong Kong, London, Germany, Switzerland, where else? Tokyo, just came back from Tokyo. And I know exactly what investors want to hear, because I hear the startup pitches all the time, and we organize our own like ICO pitch competitions and fintech pitch competitions where investors choose the startups they like. And every time, like 90% of the time, I hear a boring pitch, and startups get so frustrated by the fact that they cannot communicate the value of their idea. Well, to be honest, they think they can. And I would like to see more communication training for startups, because most startups, maybe including yourself, they think that communication is easy. I just go on stage and I tell everyone about my product. But when they actually do get on stage, something goes wrong. And they feel it. Everybody feels it. It's not so easy when you're sitting face to face with an investor, or when you're pitching from stage. And I want to tell you today about the biggest mistakes that startups usually make, and how you can improve that. That means what you can do to stand out and what you can do to attract capital. Because I want you to treat your presentation very seriously. When you go there on stage, your presentation is going to be recorded. You're going to have a video material. And of course, it's important not just to to get the video presentation after this conference, but also to get relationships, maybe, you know, commitments from investors, maybe, you know, connections with strategic partners, etc., etc. But many people forget that actually the video presentation is going to be recorded, and they think, well, I'm just talking to the people sitting here in the room. No, after your presentation, you're going to have a marketing material, which is your video pitch, that you can send to your investors that that haven't been in the room yet, or you can use it as a marketing tool to use on social media, to send to your community, whatever. So that means please make sure you're prepared for this talk, because it's going to be recorded and you can use that. Because if you're not prepared, you're going to be embarrassed to use it. And if you are prepared, you're going to be proud to use that. And it's just, it multiplies your effort when after the talk you can send everyone the video of your talk. So you're going to be pitching, and I guess everyone's goal is here to attract capital, right? Not just to make a beautiful presentation, but to attract capital. I'm going to start now with all the recommendations I have, and I think it's going to take us about 40-45 minutes altogether. Please, because I cannot hear you, it's hard to understand, what you want to ask and what you want to say. We will have room for questions at the end. However, if you feel that you have a question as I'm talking, just write them down in the chat, so that you do not forget, okay? And then we come back to all your questions when I'm done talking. But it just makes more sense, because otherwise people forget, and then at the end there are no questions, and I don't believe you won't have any questions. Does that make sense to you? If you still understand my English, you can say something. Okay, good. All right, perfect. So, how do you attract capital? So, the biggest mistakes that startups make are the following. I'm going to explain each point. They give way too many details way too early. I'm not saying the details are not important or that investors do not want to hear them, but not as early as you think. When I teach people self-presentation and networking skills, they all make the same mistake. Even when they introduce themselves, they come up to you and they say, "Hi, my name is, I was born here, I've been working in this company for so long," and start giving you all the story of their life, or the story, like the detailed description of their job. And I always tell people, look, when you meet new people, they want to know about you, yeah, but just they don't want to know everything about you, not right now. So the same happens when you pitch on stage. Very often it starts with something like, our startup is a disruptive technology that will change the world. So all these generic blah, blah, blah buzzwords, because everybody says that, so don't do that. It's another mistake, buzzwords. And then they start saying, and this is how it works, they say. And they start, yeah, don't worry, you'll get these slides. And then they start giving diving into very sophisticated technical details of how their product works. You see, so number one, they say, this is going to change the world. Number two, they say, here are the technical details, please listen. And no one actually can follow up with that, because you forgot, these startups forget to say the most important thing. Why is this product necessary? No one cares that you're going to change the world because you think you're going to change the world, but if you cannot present the marketing research or any data or any facts that supports your claim, it's just words. So I always recommend startups to start a presentation by saying why. Why anybody needs to listen to your presentation. Why anybody needs to think about what you're creating. Why you actually came up with this idea. And actually the most winning presentations are those that involve personal stories. Not just, according to the structure and the some template, but actually why you personally feel connected to this problem, why you personally want to solve it. Because business, no matter how technological business is always done by people, and people are always moved by something that other people can relate to. So your job when you're on stage is not to give a great pitch. Many people think forget that. And your job is not to give as many details as you can about your presentation. Your job is very simple when you're on stage. Your job is to be remembered. Because if you are remembered, if people remember you, they can tell someone else about you. And people only remember the things they understand. And people only understand things they can easily imagine. So if you tell them a personal story, it's easy to imagine, it's easy to relate to, and it's easy to remember. If you tell them like a lot of technical details that relate to AI, blockchain, fintech, all these complicated protocols, like from all these people in the room, half of them will fall asleep. And if you are number 35 startup pitching today, no one will care anymore. If you are like among the first 5, it's okay. But as like after the 6th startup, people start just, they drift away. They cannot take in so much information. So it has to be simple. So if you remember that your job is to make sure people remember you, it's going to be way, way more simple for you to start your talk, okay? Because they need to remember something interesting, and then they want to come up to you, to call you, to follow up with you and ask more questions. And if you start with something personal, with why, or with why this is important, they will continue listening to you. If you start with a lot of details in the beginning, no one is going to listen. And I see this mistake every single time. So then, let's move on. Too many slides. I'm trying to make my slides an example of what it can look. But everyone is staring at the computer. If I was showing this on stage, I would make it even more simple, and I would put less information on my slides. Because when you look at the screen, it's kind of easy. When people are sitting in the audience and they look at your slides, they cannot read everything that's written there. Just accept this. People cannot read slides. If you think you put all the information there, people will not read them, because maybe they sit very far away, maybe the light is bad. And never ever make blue slides. Never in your life. Because blue slides, when they're projected and when people see in the room, you can see nothing, absolutely. Especially blue slides and white text. No one will see anything. But your slides are not there to put, slides are not designed to have text on them, okay, when you are on stage. If you are on stage, you are the story. You are the main slide. People will listen to you. On your slide, you can put a picture that attracts attention. You can put some very, very obvious diagram or whatever, but just better if it's one picture or one diagram and no words, because you are there on stage to say the words. The biggest mistake is when people start turn their back to the screen and they start reading their own slides. It's horrible. Don't do that. Don't read your own slides. Especially never turn your back to the audience. But just think about it. If you have a lot of slides and they have a lot of information, revisit that. Make sure that you have maybe 5-6 slides, if at all, if you need them. It's good if it's a video. It's good if it's a picture that people can remember, relate to, but not a lot of text. People will not read it anyway. And another mistake, another trap here, even if you want people to read your slides, okay, maybe they will, but as soon as people start reading your slides, they stop listening to you. It's very simple. People cannot multitask. They start reading, they stop listening. And what do you want? Do you want them to read, or do you want them to listen to you? If you answer that question, it becomes very obvious. Then the next one, clutter. When I say clutter, it's actually, your slides can be cluttered. I just mentioned it. Don't put a lot of information on your slides. It has to be 1 sentence, 2 lines max. And clutter, when your speech is cluttered, when you say a lot of things that you don't need to say. When you are not prepared, when you don't practice, and you're struggling for words on stage, it's bad. And when you say irrelevant information. So make sure you practice before and don't clutter your slides. The next one, no value proposition. What is the value proposition? Value proposition is you're pitching to investors. So investors want to know, how do I profit from that? Okay, and many startups absolutely ignore that. They say, our product is the best. This is why give us money. Or, we have an amazing team. Give us money. We're going to build something. And they absolutely forget to talk about the product, but not the product, but the strategy for selling the product, and they forget to talk about the exit strategy, because the only thing investors care is their exit strategy. They don't care how, of course, they will not invest in something that is not innovative and disruptive and cool and with a great team of people behind it, but they care about their exit. This is number one question they ask themselves. And when you are on stage, you have to address this issue in a very delicate way, but when you have face-to-face negotiations with investors, maybe after your talk, you have to bring this up and you have to make it very obvious that you're asking for money because you want to give money in return, a lot more money in return. So value proposition for investors has to be there. Then exceeding time limits. Look, I had this myself a lot when I was pitching in London last year, and I had only 6 minutes, and I wanted to say so much. It's very, very important to practice, if you know your time limit, to make sure you do not exceed your time limit. Because what happens is, if it's 5 minutes, 55 seconds, they tell you, okay, that you're done, okay, get off the stage. And this is this is sad because you wanted to say so much and you didn't prepare enough. So always practice and time yourself. Make sure that you're on time. And you can deliver your message within a certain period of time. This is I see great startups, great ideas, but they don't practice with the time limits and they blow it. And this is very disappointing because they don't have time to say everything they want. Over-promising, that means do not say we're the world's first, we're the world's best, we're the number one. If you say anything like this, you need to back up your claim, because every project comes up there and says the same thing. So if you say something like this, you need to back it up with research, you need to back it up with numbers, with data, with something. But if you overpromise like that, most likely you're going to underdeliver, and then investors are going to be disappointed. And the last one, no market research. This is what I'm saying. So many startups make these claims based on their fantasies and not on the real market research. Like they say, we want to raise $30 million. And when you ask them why, they say because it's a good number. Of course, they say something else, but pretty much they cannot explain why they need this amount of money. And investors like when you talk numbers to them and when you show real market research. And market research is not 2 hours you spent on Google, but a realistic market research that can prove your point. So these are because investors want to see that you will have a working product and that you will have revenue. Investors do not want a beautiful pitch where you ask for money and you promise that you're the best. They want to see that the business is going to stand on its feet beautifully after they give you money, and there's going to be revenue flows. So this is what you want to focus on. Then how do you actually stand out? Okay, so there are two things investors want to hear. You either invented something new or you found a way to improve something that has been working very poorly. So either it's really real innovation, no one has done it before, or you invented something like Skype. Yes, Skype was a very good example of the second one. International calls were functioning so poorly, so that when Skype appeared, it practically changed and revolutionized the way people call each other today, because before that it was working on a very poor level. So ask yourself this question: am I the first or the second? And if you can prove to investors that you're one of the two, you have really good chances to stand out. Okay? So I'm not going to say the F word, but you freaking have to practice your presentation. Because, again, I'm going to repeat that. Many startups think it's easy. And this is why they don't pay attention to this. And this is why they start practicing 2 days before the presentation. Well, today is what, 13th? Well, you have 4 days. Hope you have started before. But this takes a lot of effort. And what I focus on, well, my first language is Russian. But what I focus on is how do you deliver a beautiful presentation in a second language, like English? Because most people have problems even when they pitch in Russian, but when it comes to speaking in a second language, that's another story. And you do need to practice that, and you do need to make sure that you're on time, you sound professional, you sound convincing, and you feel confident. So practice it. Don't go there after you read it out loud 2 times, and never read it. Then, yeah, when I say you own your presentation, this only comes with practice. A lot of startups, they go there, take the mic, and stand on one spot throughout the entire presentation. Like they don't move for 6 minutes, for 10 minutes, whatever. This is bad. That means they're just showing the whole audience they feel insecure. And this is why, if you have a chance to see the stage before, always come early, get up on stage, see how you feel on the stage. Make sure, where's the mic? Is there a podium where you can put your notes? Is there a clicker? If you get on stage before you actually speak, you will also feel more comfortable. But do not read, and do not take any notes with you, and because it also looks very unprofessional. And the thing is that when you are on stage, and if you have a headset, it's easy. But when you have a microphone in one hand and a clicker in another hand, you don't have a third hand to hold your notes. Okay? So the only way you can read from your notes if you put your notes on your podium, but then you have to stand on one place and read like next to the podium to make sure that you don't lose sight of your notes. And this looks really, really bad. This shows you're insecure, and this shows you're afraid to forget whatever you're about to say. This is why, imagine the situation: microphone in one hand, clicker in another hand, no third hand for notes. That means you need to keep your notes in your mind, in your head. And that means you need to practice a lot. This is why I make sure it's important. And I'm only telling you this because I've done it so many times myself. I know how that feels. When you're on that stage, when you have to pitch, you're limited in time, and there's, you don't have any room for notes. So I know that just from experience. So never read. Never. So I'm going to answer this question right now. Do not read. Remember yourself in college or university. And many times, probably you had this situation when a professor was reading something to you standing at the podium. And now give me an honest answer. Were you listening when they were reading? Probably not. I wasn't. So when somebody reads, it's really hard to listen, and it's not interesting to listen. That's it. Full stop. Period. Whatever. When somebody tells a story, it's suddenly a lot more interesting. So I wouldn't read. And when I say you talk about the real business model here, again, emphasizing that you want to show investors that your business will have real revenue flows. And you need to explain how the business model works. Because I just put it here because very often after the pitch, investors can ask, yeah, that looks cool, that looks interesting, you have a good design of the presentation, but what's your business model? That means startups forget very often to talk about that. Okay, let's move on. Prepare for questions. This is also important because I see a lot of times that startups are not prepared, and they're happy when there are no questions. I always encourage you, make sure you make people want to ask questions, and if you read the entire presentation, no one will have any questions because no one will understand the freaking thing. So it's simple. When somebody reads to me for 10 minutes, I stop listening on minute 2, and I just, I had no idea what they were just reading about. You can do a test, have someone or read to someone for 10 minutes and ask them if they're listening. And especially if everybody is on stage is reading, so you have everybody's 10 minutes, you have 60, 70, 100 minutes of reading nonstop, and the human brain is not that capable yet. Then, so when you tell a story, when you talk, you encourage people to ask questions and practice answering dumb questions, because I have seen this also quite a lot of times when startups, when you deal with this every day, things look obvious to you. And you think, well, that's easy. Can't you understand that? That's so easy. But then when you talk to other people who are from another industry or another business area, they can ask questions that can sound very dumb or stupid to you. I just had this when I was in Switzerland in March, and I was listening to the Dutch ICO pitches from the Netherlands. And one person there was pitching his idea, and he said, today we have so many mobile apps on our phone, and you install them, then you uninstall them because they don't work or you don't like them, and then you have like 100 apps on your phone, and it's so frustrating to find the app that you want. So my conclusion is that people don't like using apps, mobile apps, because it's discouraging and you need to install and uninstall them all the time. So I think we don't need another app, and I don't think we need mobile apps at all. And I invented a separate device, where there are no apps. And I was like, and I asked a question, I was like, what is this proposition based on? Did you do any research, or is it just your opinion? So why do you think that people don't like using mobile apps? Because I enjoy that, let's say, yeah, and I use them a lot. And his response was, you don't understand. You don't understand. I've spent like years of work, and you just, by asking this question, you show me that you don't understand. And he was insulted. And the investors in the room sitting next to me, they said, no way he's going to get any money coming in. Of course, no one will say this to him face to face, but just don't do that. People, whatever is obvious to him was not obvious to me or other people in the room. So if you make any claim, you have to back it up. But if someone asks you a question that sounds stupid to you, you need to practice a reply, and you need to practice staying calm, confident, and never jump into defending yourself, because people ask questions not to accuse you of something. They don't have any intention to accuse you or to say something bad about you. They ask questions because they truly don't understand what you're saying. So give them patience and explain that. And another type of questions is when people ask you questions you really have no clue about, know what to say when you don't know what to say. I had this situation a lot when I was selling a very complicated database solution, and I'm a business person. I'm not very technical, even though I had to learn a lot of technical stuff about that. But they were asking me all these detailed questions about how Cassandra Apache data system works, database works, and I was like, I have no clue, I have no idea. But with time I got used to those questions. But it's very important, again, not to feel defensive and not to become a little boy or little girl on stage that doesn't know the answer. When somebody asks you a question that you don't know, you honestly say, well, that I don't know, but our technical director can answer these questions and I'll be happy to connect you to. Something like that. So you need to practice giving a very confident response that doesn't diminish your presentation. And don't just say, I don't know, or don't start lying, or don't start saying something just to say something. So practice these 3 types of questions. Okay. And also remember that you are the message, not your slides, but you. People look at you. And another thing people forget, that people never invest in products. There will be hundreds of products and hundreds of startups like yours. You're not the only one. There will be lots of people or competition, they're doing the same thing. But for whatever reason, investors choose this product or this project or this project. People invest in people. And they look at the team. The team is the number 1 criteria for every investor. So even if you have a great product, but you have a team that no one can rely on and no one can trust, or a team that cannot sell the product from stage, or a team that has no idea how to communicate or how to answer questions or how to, behave on stage, that's an issue. So this is what I'm saying. You are the message. Pay attention to what you're wearing. I'm not saying, we're in a startup world. I'm not saying it has to be super fancy suit and tie, no, but make sure you pay attention to your appearance, you behave professionally, you are able to talk, to answer questions, to make jokes where necessary, basically when you are on stage, you're selling your idea, you're selling your product to the big audience. And if you're unable to do that, that's a big issue. So you are the message. Whatever you say is more important than what you show. This is why I remember to thank your team on stage. If you are there, you're not doing this alone. So mention your team, but don't do it like most other startups do. They show the picture of the team and they start telling you a life story of every team member. That's boring. But you can highlight, we have people who were, with like 10 years experience at Google, or we have people on our team who are themselves entrepreneurs with multiple exits, like give the highlights, but do not tell the life story and the biography of every team member, because that is very boring. But just remember that people invest in people. And final notes. So another few things when you're on stage, mind your diction. What it means is that, actually, a Broadway actress from New York, she told me that. She said that when I sing, and I sing in front of big audiences, there are lots of people. My job is to make sure that people who sit in the back, they understand every single word. When I'm talking right now, I hope you also can hear clearly every word I'm saying, because I have a habit, I pay attention to my diction. But it's very important when you hold the mic, or when the room has a lot of people on the front rows will be able to hear you, but people in the back can misunderstand a few words. When it's like the opera. If you have ever been to the opera, you probably know the feeling. When you hear the music, you hear that people are singing something, but what they're singing, hell knows. Yeah, so and you want to make sure that people hear actually every word you're saying or singing. This is why in Russian it's not a big issue, but when you speak a second language, make sure you open your mouth a little bit more, and you make sure you overpronounce every letter and you make every word distinct. Because, a very simple reason why people do not understand your product is because they don't understand what you're saying, and because your diction is bad. So make sure you focus on that, and you will speak a little bit slower if you focus on your diction. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything bad. It will only seem slow to you. To people, it will be very comfortable. Then tone and volume, do not make it very even, like when we speak Russian, most of the time we don't differentiate whether it's loud or quiet. We just keep the same volume. So I just said something this is the intonation of the Russian language. In English, it's more ups and downs. If you want to attract people's attention to something, you go up with your tone, with your volume. You can play with that. You can say some things louder and longer. You can say some things quieter. And another thing I forgot actually to put in here is pause. Learn to pause. Pauses are not a bad thing. They're very powerful things. You make people think, and if you have a feeling that people stop listening to you, just pause. Just say nothing for a few seconds. And you will immediately feel that all eyes are on you again. It's a very, very powerful tool. But when you're on stage, these three things are very important: diction, tone, volume, and pauses, and sometimes more important than the slides. And also remember, you're talking to friends, and when you practice, I always advise people to practice with their dogs, with their cats, with their parents, whoever they trust, because it's very scary to speak on stage. And it's scary because we do not know how people react. Well, they look at us, but they don't say anything. So we don't know, do they like it or do they not? Do they understand it or do they not? And because we do not receive any kind of feedback, it is scary. And we cannot, if people were saying to us every 2 minutes, oh, I like what you're saying, and people were like, clapping, we would be very relaxed on stage. But because we don't know for the whole 6 minutes or 10 minutes what people are feeling as we're talking, it's very frustrating. This is why it really helps if you remember that, look, people came here to listen to you. That means they already want to listen to you. They already welcome you on stage. And if you think about that, people never want to watch a bad show. That means they will do everything to support you on stage. They will do everything to make sure they did watch a very good show. So if you're looking for your biggest fans, they are in the audience and they're helping you. Just this because when you go there, all the technical stuff is very important, but how you feel as a speaker actually is 80% of success. Because how you feel will affect what you're going to say and how you're going to say that. So just focus on the feeling that you're speaking in front of friends and all the people are friendly to you. It will be easier. And don't be a nerd on stage. Are there any CTOs here in the room? Yes, no, or mostly business people? Okay, I guess no CTOs, because every speech done by a CTO was a disaster. Because they think everybody else is a CTO. So even if you're a CTO, forget that you won. And remember that people most likely do not speak your language. So don't be a nerd, don't go into technical details, don't try to impress people with that, and you'll be fine. Focus on business value and value proposition. And yeah, if you want to find me, you find me here. And I always say that you need to obsess about the quality of your communication. So Telegram, Facebook, whatever, it's very simple, just my name and last name. And now I'm ready for your questions. If you have any more, we'll go through them. I see. I'm gonna come back to whatever you wrote here just to see. I don't know, guys, how much time we have for the presentation. You have to ask Anna. I don't know. I just know that it's going to be limited in time. But you need to know in advance how much time you will have and practice with that. So let me get back to the very beginning. What questions did we have? So yeah, I told you that. Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry, with something. So let me let me try to scroll down to the questions. So yes, you will receive the copy of the presentation. Okay, you write. Oh, if you have only 3 minutes, then you have to really practice, okay? So, more questions. If there are no questions after presentation, is it too bad? It's not too bad. Again, it depends. Sometimes there are no questions because people are simply tired. Sometimes there are no questions because people don't understand. Sometimes, there are no questions because people have no questions. You don't know. But really, you don't know for sure. But very often, like what happened to me is there were no questions on stage, but as soon as I get off the stage, people start surrounding me and they want to ask questions. So it happens. Is there any difference between VC and blockchain? Well, VC is venture capital and blockchain is blockchain technology. There's a very big difference because of different things. If you're talking about, if you're asking, is there any difference between VC funding and ICO? Then yes, but there's obvious difference between VC and blockchain. Well, definitely an exit strategy. If you're talking about, look, I don't know what's happening. They just keep kicking me off. How to tell your audience about an exit strategy? I told you about that. So when you are on stage, you have to be very delicate about it. If let's say you are on stage and you say, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay, so you can hear me again. So if you're on stage and you want to mention that your product is going to be profitable, you simply say, well, we're talking about partnerships with this company, and this company, or we have a commitment about a strategic partnership with a chain of supermarkets in Switzerland. That's obvious to an investor that if you have this partnership, you're going to have revenue, okay? Because in 3 minutes, you cannot really say more. But when you sit down with an investor in a face-to-face conversation, of course you have to tell more about it, okay? About the exit strategy. Exit here means how much your share is worth if you give in equity, okay? So how many shares you're willing to give, at what price, what time they can start selling your shares, what are the dividends, whatever. So this you'd say during the face-to-face conversation. But on stage, you have to give implications of a very lucrative opportunity, implications of revenue flows. That is what it means. If in case of an ICO, of course, you talk about the tokens, but again, everybody says our tokens are gonna be priceless, are gonna cost a lot. And when I say why, they just say, well, because because we hope so, or because we want so, or because we're gonna work hard. But again, you probably don't want a lot of investors that are simply going to buy your tokens and dump them as soon as possible. But you want strategic investors who are going to take you to a Japanese market, to a Korean market, who are going to introduce you to some maybe corporates, whatever. So again, even today in ICOs, we have so many institutional investors coming in, and they all want to see a clear business model, which for them is an equivalent of a good access strategy, because if you have a lot of clients, if you have lots of revenue, the better the exit strategy is for them. Okay, like it's moving a little too fast. How much money you need? I don't know how much money you need, so you need to give them a model that explains why you think you need this amount of money. Should you say how many users you'll attract with investors? Yes, you need to say a target. What number are you targeting at? Yes, how many users you want to see on your platform, how many users you have today, if you have any. Among the tips from 500 startups, it was, do investors want to listen about marketing strategy? It depends on your product. If it's very essential for your product and you have to talk about it in 3 minutes time, then do it. It depends on the product, really. I don't know. Sometimes it's really important. Sometimes, when you have only 3 minutes, it's not. It depends on what you're doing. Does it make sense to put pressure on pity? What does it mean? Instead of a business plan, if the project is socially oriented. Never use such elements as pity. Like if you want to use emotion, it's like, another thing I don't like, when people start selling something, they sell, here is your pain, I'm going to cure it. Like, are you the doctor or what? So do not try to find people's pain. Do not try to tell them that you're going to, you can see what bothers them or what is wrong with them. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes to open up and tell, okay, this is what is hurting me. Instead, always focus on the value. What is the value that you can bring to the world? So if you're talking about a social product, okay, don't say what is bad and why we should all cry now in the audience, but say what you can do better. What is the current situation, but what can you do better? So this way people will focus on the value that you're bringing, and they will focus on you, instead of, if you make them cry, they will focus on that, poor child or, kitten or whatever, but not on you, not on your product. If you have only 3 minutes, what are the most important parts of the pitch? I just told you, we have 45 minutes of that. The most important is why you're doing that, how you're going to attract revenue, and what are you trying, why are you doing it, what are you trying to change with that, how are you going to attract revenue, and how much money you need. And you can say the number, or you're pitching to attract capital, so why do you need capital, what are you going to do with that? That's important. Calling for emotions is not a bad move. It's depends which emotions. You want people to give you emotions because they remember emotional things, but not negative, not like pity or sorrow or, not like this, because you want them to remember you and the value of your product and not their bad emotions. If you can make them laugh, it's very, very good. What else? There were some other... you keep writing so fast I can't read the previous questions. No, we're not going to say anything in Russian. If you don't understand, I'm sorry. I told you reading is very bad. Okay. If you have a social impact, charity project or whatever, I have seen actually quite a few projects that raised money for charity, which is a non-profit organization, but then investors need to see why they should give you money. And if you cannot explain this to them, it's bad. Give me money and I'm gonna, I don't know, bring peace to the world and do something meaningful, but investors always need to see why they should give you money. So you need to find a way to explain that. Could you please tell about, should I show exact number how much I want to raise, or should I just say I need investment advice? From stage, you mean? Or what do you mean? When you pitch on stage? No, when you pitch on stage, you cannot say, I need investment advice. Definitely not, because this is weird. If you come to pitch on stage, you have to know what you're doing, how much money you need to do that, and how you're going to spend that money. So you pretty much need to have an idea, because going to investor and not knowing how much money you need, it's a bad move. So you need to have an idea, and better if it's an exact number. If the project doesn't arouse interest, does this mean the project is bad? Because the best experts will listen. How do you know that the project does not arouse interest? How do you where does this come from? What are your criteria that a project does not arouse interest? You mean when you pitch on stage, you can feel that it doesn't arouse interest, or when you have multiple meetings with investors and all of them tell you we're not interested? Because it's different things. Sometimes also startups forget, sometimes they pitch to the wrong audience, and sometimes startups forget about the clients. They focus so much on the investors, and they forget to talk to their clients at all. And this is bad again. This is why most of the time investors say no. Like, they go to investors and say we need money, instead of going to clients and actually show them that you can add value with their product. I know a lot of startups that could not raise even 1 million, but then they signed a strategic partnership with a client, like with a manufacturer or with a bank or with whatever, and they signed an annual contract for a couple million right away. It was a client, it was a paying client, and this is how they got their first money. So there are different situations. Maybe sometimes you're just targeting the wrong people, but the more clients you have, the more interested the investor will be. If you can show them that you have clients or commitments from clients, the investors will be more interested. Because most ICOs today, they just, they say, give us money, we're going to build something sometime in the future. This is not a good strategy. And even like most of the MVPs they're showing, you cannot use that. No clients will pay for that. But if you already have a product that works and clients are ready to pay for that, for an investor, it's a very, very good sign, and it's quite a lot easier to attract money. It's not okay to put on the slide that you're looking for a mentor, but it's okay to say that. Like if you feel that you can contribute to our amazing team, and you feel that you want to join our team, feel free to contact me, okay, or something like that. Or if you feel you can guide us in the right direction, something like that. Yeah, I mentor a lot of startups in terms of communication strategies, and but they all contacted me like just personally, not from stage. But it's okay, but not on the slides. It's okay to say it in a very delicate way on stage. Do you have any more questions, guys? Yes, no? Okay. If no, I wish you all good luck with your presentations on May 17th in Minsk. I'm going to be in New York at that time. Unfortunately, I cannot join you. But let's get in touch. Here are my contact details. Feel free to reach out on Telegram or Facebook. And if I can help with anything, I'll be happy to. And good luck. Hope you get lots of interest from investors, and you're going to meet lots of interesting people at the conference. You're very welcome. Okay. Bye-bye.